In Geometry Section 3.4, we're dealing with equations of lines. We're dealing with two specific equations that when we graph them later on in the sections, all their graphs will be lines. For this section, you will really need to understand Section 3.3 on how to find the slopes from last section. So if you're still rusty on that, watch that again. But there's two types of slopes, equations for lines. The first one is called the slope-intercept, and the second one is called the point slope. So in order for you to make the section a little more easier, we're going to focus on the main equation, which is slope-intercept form. Point-slope form will be helpful in certain cases as a shortcut, but if you get confused kind of easily, or too many things might frustrate you, just focus and master slope-intercept. You will be perfectly fine. So I will go over point slope, but we're not going to use it. If you want to go into your books to find how to master it or find me after class, we can do that. But right now our best friend for this section is going to be slope-intercept. But first, don't forget to do the vocabulary in your notes. And also, let's just go into both forms, and I'll explain a little bit of each. So basically, the slope-intercept form you have an m, which is a slope. Remember, the y2 minus y1, the x2 minus x1. And then it gives you a y-intercept. So we were talking about intercepts a little bit, and y is where the y-intercept where the line hits the y-axis. That's the up and down. Okay, the x-intercept would be where it hits the x-axis. So in this case, the y-intercept is b, and the slope is m. Okay, and our equation is y equals mx plus b. But before we have an actual equation that we can use, we need to fill in our m and we need to fill in our b. Okay? In the point-slope form, we're dealing with slope and a point. Okay, so they don't give me necessarily a y-intercept, but they do give me a point on the line. And this is the equation we're going to fill out. And again, we have to fill out everything except our x and y. So we need to find y1, x1, and m. Alright? And again, I can go over this to you on one-on-one if you're more interested, but we're going to learn to master our friend the slope-intercept form for the equation of a line. So a question that you might have, number one, is finding the equation for line AB. Okay? And A is -1, 6, and B is 3, 2. So remember, in order for us to have an actual equation, I need to find m, which is my slope, and b, which is my y-intercept. The first thing we can find, m, is pretty simple from last section, is the slope, because we have 2 points, a and b. This is my x1, y1. This is my x2, y2. So just in section 3.3 with slope, it's y2 minus y1. This is what m equals. And x2 minus x1. Right? Remember? Alright, so we're just going to plug it in. y2 is 2. Okay? y1 is positive 6, so minus 6. Over x2, which is 3. And x1, which is -1. So it's a minus a -1. So remember that minus -1 gives us a positive. So here we have 3, let's do the top first. 2 minus 6 gives us a -4. 3 minus -1 is 3 plus 1, which gives us a positive 4. So our slope is -1. This is, of course, our m. So we found m. Okay? That one is all for section 3.3. Now, the hard part is, the new part, not necessarily the hard part, is to find what our y-intercept is going to be. Okay? Now, I told you that in order for us to have an equation of a line, we needed an m and a b. Yes? But we also remember that in order for us to solve for an equation, we can have a maximum of how many missing variables? 1. And if I plug in y equals mx plus b, if I plug in my b, -1, right? I still have how many missing variables? Well, I still have x, y, and b, so I can't solve for any of them. But I do know that these points lie on the line, so they're what you can call a clue. I can use this clue to fill in my x and y. Even though I don't need it in my final problem, I can use it to find my b. And here's what I mean. I can choose whichever one of these. I'm going to choose the positive, so 3 and 2. So 3 would be my x, and 2 would be my y. Okay? So let's plug it in. My y is 2 equals -1. My x is 3 plus b. Now again, the reason why I did that is because b now is the only variable that's missing. So since that's the only variable and that's the variable we're looking for, we then can solve to find what b is. I don't need x and y in my final product, but I use x and y to find my missing variable, which is b. So now let's just solve this like regular algebra. 3 times 1, I'm sorry, 3 times -1 is -3, and I bring down the 2 plus b. Now, I have to do the opposite to get rid of, to make b by itself, isolate b. So since this is being subtracted by 3, the opposite would be add by 3, and what I do on one side, I have to do on the other. Okay, so 2 plus 3 is 5 equals b. So I have my b and I have my m. So my final answer is when I plug my two main variables in, which is y equals m, which is -1 x plus b. And this is my answer. This is how I find the equation of the line. What this tells me is that if I graph this equation, it'll go through these 2 points and show me all the other points that are on this line. Okay? So, go ahead and pause it, write it down, and remember we're mastering the slope-intercept form, and try page 168, number 2 and 8. 168, numbers 2 and 8, and we'll go through in class tomorrow. Thanks.